right, guys, welcome back to Of Stone and Clay. This is episode 131. Today we're here with Bubba Page, my man. Thanks for coming.
Hey, this is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, dude. Dude, is Bubba your real name? There's no way parents saw an infant and said, we're naming this Bubba.
Okay, look. So my mom's 5'3". I was close to 10 pounds.
Okay.
So I came out looking very large.
Yeah.
So chubby baby and Bubba just fit. So it's a nickname. My real name is Brandt.
Okay.
Brandt.
Mm.
Great, strong name, but I've just never been called Brandt.
Okay, yeah.
So Bubba it is.
So
We're friends.
you were like in the womb probably doing some push-ups, getting a little pump to come into the world.
I must have been, but it definitely didn't look like that. I was just rolls and rolls when I came out.
Nice. Do you have friends, like, anyone call you Brandt?
No one.
Really?
No one calls me Brandt.
That's
it's
funny.
Hilarious. Because it's a good name. There's nothing wrong with it. But Bubba it is. It's here to stay.
Okay, perfect. It's funny. I have, for some reason, so many of my friends just call me Church.
That's awesome.
And so I have whole friend groups where someone will come in and be like, hey, Taylor. And they'll be like, what? Taylor? I'm like, yeah, it turns out it's my name, you know?
That's awesome.
But yeah, like, obviously no one in my family calls me Church.
For sure. For sure.
But, well, dude, I'm excited to talk. You're somebody that I only met once, like a few weeks ago, but we've been chatting a little bit, and I really want to dive into, I know you've been on a ton of podcasts and you talk a lot about entrepreneurial things and investing, and also you have your own social media brand where you talk a lot about God and faith, and you're a father of 8 children. And
that's true.
You know, so there's a lot I want to get into.
Yeah.
And I know you're recently divorced. I want to kind of talk about that a little bit without going into too much detail. But yeah, tell me first a little bit, what is sort of the brand that you've established that you want to portray to other people that's kind of Bubba Page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm a faith, family, fitness, finance kind of guy.
Okay, yeah.
So God is my number one,
Just
Jesus
all
Christ.
F's.
I mean, it helps to remember it, right?
Yeah.
But if I think about, putting God first, Jesus Christ, right? Like I'm a Jesus guy. Having a family, 8 children, being a father is the best.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the main purposes of us even coming to this earth is to be able to have that experience. So I love that. I do love to stay healthy. I feel like we've been given this amazing body. Let's try to take care of it. And then finances for me is all about self-reliance and building an abundance. And I do that through entrepreneurship and through investing. So when I'm teaching or coaching or mentoring or speaking, it's usually based around the business side of it. But then I tie in, how can you not? For me, I tie in God into the whole thing. My family is a big part of it. But most people want to learn how to make more money. And so I do that first. But I love blending in, faith and Jesus and family, because it hurts me to see people lose sight of what really matters, because entrepreneurship is an incredible blessing, and we're made to be creators. I think we came from a creator. I think we are built to be creators. But if you create and forget why you came here, you can lose sight of what really matters. And so my hope is, yes, I'm an entrepreneur, investor, but before all that should be dad of 8.
Yeah.
That's the key of where I'm at.
That's awesome. I love how, like, presently anyone can have sort of their own brand and make it precisely what they want it to be. Yeah. And your brand can be, I'm a dad of 8 and I do fitness and I invest and I do all these things. And then as people start to follow you, they're there for the ride. And I'm sure some people follow you because they want dad tips. They want to hear about what it's like to have so many kids, what it's like to be a single dad. And I'm sure some people follow you and they're like, I don't really care about that. I want the investment tips, so. It's
totally true. And it's interesting because Instagram, I have a different demographic than I do on like LinkedIn, for example. And even though I have a following on both platforms, it's something that, they're looking for more business investing, entrepreneurial minded, but I'll still cross post,
right?
Because there's a percentage that blend on both. And so, hopefully people are okay with that. If they're not, don't follow.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to talk about what I'm passionate about. And that's what's so great about social. Social media allows you to just be whoever you truly are. And being authentic is the key to connection to me. Being vulnerable and authentic is how we connect. And as long as people are being vulnerable and authentic online, you'll attract the type of people that should be there.
Yeah.
And those who aren't, like maybe I talk about Jesus too much for some people. And so they don't want to hear it. That's okay. They can go somewhere else and get other business advice only.
Yeah.
But to me, I have to incorporate it. Like God gave me everything.
Yeah.
And so to be able to talk about how he's influenced my life and when I go through amazing experiences and successes and horrific failures and trauma related incidents, God's going to be a part of all of it.
Right. Yeah.
And so, it's just a clean place to be who you are.
Yeah.
And especially when you talk about people getting more money and or fame, it only, I think, makes you become more of who you truly are. Yeah. So the more money you have, it'll enhance whatever you are. And unfortunately for some, it makes them not that great.
Right.
And you hope that you've set a foundation of core principles that you live by so that no matter what level of success or finances or whatever you have, you are the true self and you've set up this beautiful foundation. And I hope to be able to teach and speak on those topics.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. Did you always want 100 kids?
No, I did not. I did not envision that.
Did you come from a big family?
No, I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay.
And my kid's mom came from just 3. She's in the middle of 2 boys. So we went way beyond both of our families.
Right.
But I was absolutely supportive when the conversation was like, "Hey, I feel inspired to have another child." And I'd be like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And then it was, we had baby number 6 was here. The prompting, the feeling, the inspiration came of like, I think there's another one. And it was like, take a deep breath. Like, okay, we can do this. Like if we're feeling it, let's go. And I truly believe that you receive blessings. If you're living the best way you can, you're going to receive blessings for having these children.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's a challenge. It doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
But I think there's a level of sacrifice. Whenever we sacrifice something, for God or for a good principle, I believe you receive blessings.
Yeah.
And then we had twins.
Yeah. Okay.
So went for 7, got 7 and 8.
Yeah.
These cute boy-girl twins. They're 5 years old now. So my age ranges are 5 to 15 currently, and it's 4 boys, 4 girls.
Okay. What's your absolute just favorite part about being a dad?
Oh my gosh, I love the one-on-one time.
Yeah.
So having I try to do dates with the kids and we rotate. And then when we can, we do this thing called tuck-in time. So at night, one kid gets to spend 15 minutes outside of the rest of the kids. And 15 doesn't even seem that long,
right?
But it's just this pure bonding. They can talk about or do almost anything. And that one-on-one time is just so special.
Yeah.
That and wrestling.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Because just some of these, they want to connect.
Yeah.
And if they're younger, they're not going to know how to have a deep conversation. But they know how to get in and get physical.
Yeah.
And so it's a fun environment to be around.
Yeah.
Having the kids experience things that either I did or didn't, and helping coach them through it or teaching them life principles. I use carpool time. So I love doing carpool. People are probably wondering, how in the heck are you doing this single dad?
Yeah.
Nanny. Do have a nanny.
Yeah.
And she is amazing and helps with tasks at home, like helping with laundry or cleaning up or maybe prepping for meals, things like that. It's a huge blessing. But I like to do the carpools because I want to spend that time in the car with them.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is I try to teach a life principle every time I'm in the car. And depending on the age group that's in the car and who's there, I'll pick some kind of a life principle, like even something like compound interest.
Yeah.
I'm a business guy. I want to talk about investing. I'm going to teach my kids young.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk to the older kids about compound interest. What does that mean? And how can you benefit from that? Or little snippets of entrepreneurship, like what is revenue and expenses and profit? And what does that mean? And acronym REP. Oh, okay, kids, what is this? So I'm trying to leverage that time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like you have enough time.
Right.
And by the time they leave the home at whatever, 18-ish years old, I hope I've taught them the hundreds and hundreds of life principles that I should have as a father. And so I try to use every experience I can to do that.
Well, and the cool thing is, because there's always just random blind spots people have and things that they miss or things that didn't really sink in when you taught them. But the cool thing is they know, like, oh, I can go to dad for anything I don't know, or, you know, they know that there's that open line of communication, and that's awesome. I remember, I think when I was, I don't know, like 11 or something, my dad started doing these date nights with the kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we were at the time not especially well off.
Yeah.
And so he would say, like, hey, we got $30 or whatever, and we can do whatever you want. And so if that means we go to the mall and go to the arcade and just blow $30 on tokens, that's what we're doing. If you want to go see a movie, if you want to go to dinner, and it was so awesome, and I looked forward to it so much. And I was always close with my dad, but to have that one-on-one time was so sacred.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so you have to be intentional. And I know so many parents out there are struggling with, they're working 2 jobs and they're trying to make ends meet. And then they've got, responsibilities outside with their church group or with their sports groups or whatever they got. It is so hard, but the more planning and attention you have, and with 8, I have to have a system.
Yeah.
And so I live and die by my calendar, and I have to have everything blocked out. I have to structure it all. I try to have some flexibility you have to.
Yeah.
But structuring an intention is so critical. So, tips for parents or soon to be parents, you try to set an intention and a goal of what you're going to do the next day, the night before, or for the week on Sunday night. And you plan, like, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay, well, I want to spend this time with these kids, or I want to take so-and-so on a date, and what are we going to do? And, or what life principles do I want to teach them? If you plan that beforehand, when you get in the car to carpool, you already know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Or if you have a repository of these things of, here are all the date ideas we could do, or a bucket list. Like we just created a summer bucket list.
Oh, fun.
We have 100 items that we can do this summer.
Yeah.
So when the kids are like, I'm bored, what should we do? It's like, oh, here's 100 things we could do.
Right.
What do you choose?
Yeah.
It's way easier than in the moment as a parent who's mentally exhausted to be like, what are you bored? What should we do? I don't know. And so that pre-planning, it does take time, but that dramatically changes the impact.
Yeah.
Because you have a structure, you have a set time and a topic to do. For me, that's the only way I can survive.
Yeah.
Is to have people ask me all the time, how do you do it with 8 kids? How do you, and planning and intention is huge.
Yeah. And I love the idea of having things that your kids are always sort of looking forward to with that bucket list, even if it's cheap things that don't cost anything. They're fun activities they have to look forward to, instead of just saying, like, we'll go to the park again. Yeah.
I think so. And getting to know what they like. And when you make those lists, try and incorporate it. I mean, look, you can even use ChatGPT and say, like, hey, I want to create a summer bucket list, put your kids' names in there and tell ChatGPT what they like.
Right.
And say, create 100 activities based on what my children love.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to be outdoor, some are going to be video game related, some are going to be exercise, and some are going to be reading.
Yeah.
And you type that in, it'll give you everything.
Yeah.
That fast. Like, we have tools that are resources that we never had before that would take so much mental time and energy that we can utilize. And so that's how we created this 100 bucket list items.
Yeah.
My daughter was there helping me curate it. And then we leveraged that system to do it.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. We even put the local geographic area of where we live.
Yeah.
And so it'd say suggestions of, like, go hike in this camp and do this trail.
Right.
And
Yeah. That's so cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, tip.
I love that. I don't remember what I was going to say, but I do, but I love it.
I mean, parenting is something that we could talk, obviously eons of podcasts. We can talk about parenting and the value of being a parent. Like, if somebody's watching and you ever considered being a parent, maybe you're worried about it, because how do you bring a child into this crazy world we live in now? Like, look, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons we're here is to bring these children to the earth and let them receive a body, experience life, be tested and tried. And they're going to go through hard things just like you've gone through hard things. And we all have to go through a version of hell. I think that's God's plan.
Right.
And we become more like him. I mean, think about what Jesus went through. It was not all peaches and cream for him, right? And if we're supposed to become more like him, we're going to have to go through hard things. And if we can lean on him through those hard things, it'll help us to give better perspective. And one thing that I've realized as I've had to go through, especially this divorce, and because it was a little bit more of a public divorce, people they would open up to me a lot more. And they would explain the hell that they had to go through. And look, everyone is going through something. And when somebody cuts you off, it gives me compassion because I'm like, you know what? Instead of flipping them off and how dare you, it's like, you know what, that guy maybe he lost his job. And he's just like not even thinking. He didn't even look in the mirror because he's distraught. How is he going to tell his spouse? Or it just gives you perspective. Somebody says something snappy at the grocery store. It's like, oh, they must be having a hard day. And that level of compassion and empathy for those other people it helps your mindset completely shift with the world around you. And you become less reactive when you can see compassion for other people and knowing that even though you don't know the details of their life, there are things that they're dealing with. And that's helped me a ton in in the divorce and in co-parenting, and having more compassion and empathy has allowed for less strain, for less stress, for less bitterness, for less anger in this whole process. And so I would highly recommend, just know that when you're going through something hard, everyone around you, even if it looks like they're not, and it looks like their life is perfect, believe me, it is not. And even though it may be hidden behind whatever, they're posting or whatever they're doing, everybody has to. It's God's plan.
It's true. I remember what I was going to say. I love going back to parenting. I love when I see parents that just decide, you know what, my kid is obsessed with Fortnite. I'm going to get obsessed with Fortnite. I'm going to start playing Fortnite with him. And because I think sometimes parents feel like it's so hard to bond with their kids because they're just living such disconnected, different lives. But I love parents that are like, you know what, my daughter's obsessed with these Narnia books. I'm going to read the Narnia books with her. And I just love that because it's such an unselfish and easy way to connect with your kids. Like my dad growing up, I was obsessed with basketball. And like, I think he liked it. He was a little probably ambivalent about it, but he'd be like, hey, you want to go shoot? You want to go work on dribbling? And it would just play with me all the time, would talk about ball with me, would film my games, would take stats for me. It was just became obsessed with me.
Oh, that's cool.
And it made it easy for us to bond.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think we can all be better at that, over time. I know I can.
Yeah. I wanted to read this quote to you.
Let's hear
it. It made me think of it when you said, there's a lot of people that almost have this thought that what's the point of bringing kids into the world because it's such a messed up place. And I kind of just wholly disagree with that.
Yeah, totally.
So this is by Nick Cave, a musician. He said, "The luminous and shocking beauty of the everyday is something I try to remain alert to, if only as an antidote to the chronic cynicism and disenchantment that seems to surround everything these days. It tells me that despite how debased or corrupt we are told humanity is, and how degraded the world has become, it just keeps on being beautiful. It can't help it."
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So when people are saying the world's falling apart, all this stuff, I'm like, but look at what's going on.
Yeah.
Look at the beauty outside. Look at what, these creations all around us. Man, we have so many blessings. Like I just, look, I'm sure there are people all over the world listening, and where we live, how we live, like this is unlike most of the world.
Yeah.
How can we not see those blessings and be grateful for what we have?
Yeah.
And it's amazing, being able to live in another country and volunteer for a couple of years, right? And watching some of the lifestyles that they have, and yet happiness is still there.
Yeah.
And so they may be in poverty, but they still have happiness and joy. Man, it just gives life perspective. I try to help teach my kids this and taking them to like a humanitarian trip to be able to see and feel what it may look like outside of their little bubble.
Yeah. Do you feel like there is an art to feeling joy?
I do think it's a mindset.
Yeah.
I think it's something that you have to believe in joy. And if you have that belief that joy is possible and you seek for joy, you'll find it.
Yeah.
I think whatever we're seeking for, you will find. Yeah. And so if you're seeking for disappointment or seeking for sadness or seeking for loneliness, even subconsciously, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
And, but if you can, and I know this is hard because some people maybe have more depression oriented, genes or genetics. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then you have to be even more intentional on looking at
you have to be vigilant.
Because look, the adversary is trying to fight against us every day. We are in battle and he only wants us to be miserable.
Yeah.
And so the way for us to combat that is to know, one, that he's there and exists. Because a lot of, he tries to tell us that he doesn't. Knowing that he exists, knowing that he's trying to tear us down, and then what we have to do to combat that. And I think looking for the joy is already one way. You're seeking for light instead of the darkness.
Yeah.
Now you can comprehend darkness as you're seeking light to understand what you're battling against. But I think the mindset of we have to seek for it.
Yeah.
And we will find it. That's what's beautiful. It's been promised in the scriptures. Like if you seek, you will find.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I feel like my sort of default settings, if I'm not careful, are to lean more sad, more depressed. I don't really struggle with like anxiety or anger. My bad emotions go towards sadness.
Yeah.
But for me, I've just realized I just have to aggressively seek joy at all times, and I will find it. And the sadness, it's going to come and go. It's part of life. Loneliness will come and go. Bouts of depression will come and go, but I can always find bits of joy. Like within a day, I can have what seems like a horrible, worthless, cataclysmic day. But if I'm seeking joy, like I'll find little bits, even if they're tiny.
I love that.
Because even if the rest of my day is utter catastrophe, I'll be like, yeah, but I had this awesome conversation with Bubba, with my dearest Brant. And I can fixate on that instead of fixating on, well, the rest of my day was trash.
I see that. Journaling is, I think, a key tip in being able to take that day, whether it was good or bad, and journaling, and then on purpose finding the blessings that came from that day.
Yeah.
And you may have to stretch sometimes and be like, you know what? I was able to put on clean socks today. And I'm stoked about those clean socks. And, maybe that wasn't the highlight of the rest of the week, but journaling, writing it down, physically writing it down, and man, I could be better at this too. I think it's almost like a return and report. When you go through your day, you return a report to our maker and you talk about the things you're grateful for. That mindset of talking about, writing out what you're grateful for will help you to be more grateful and therefore bring more joy. And yes, you can write the things that were horrible and horrific and express those feelings. Some of the things, the hell that I've gone through, writing it down releases some of that pain and that pressure. So, if there's a tip of dealing with or finding more joy, writing it down in some kind of a journal could be a really huge blessing. And I know it seems so small and simple, but yet in small and simple things, great things end up happening.
Yeah.
So that's
for me, I do this sort of journaling system where I have like a normal journal where I just write out everything, my feelings, but I have, it's not quite a gratitude journal, but I write down every day the good things that happened, the good things that I saw, the good things I was a part of. And like you said, some days it's a stretch, right? Because I got a bunch of bad news or I got injured or my heart is heavy. And so it's like my burrito from Maverick was really good. And like on the drive home, I listened to the song that was really impactful and a friend texted me, like, you start digging for the things and you realize, oh, there's actually a lot of little things.
Yeah.
But I was so negatively impacted by the one piece of bad news that I thought my day was completely a bust.
For sure.
But the other thing I do is I go back the next day, and of those, 10 things I list, I highlight the top 2 or 3 things. And I start to see patterns. I start to see what are the things that always, without fail, bring me joy, even if they're small, even if it's like, for me, I realize like lunch is actually like a huge reset in my day. No matter what's going on. Like I take lunch really seriously.
I love it.
I sit down, I listen to music or a podcast. I'll often like take that time to journal or something as well. I eat my food and I really enjoy it and I'm grateful for it. And to me, it's a small thing I can control. I'm gonna have lunch every day.
I love it.
And so it's an easy thing to be like, well, my day can be absolute garbage, but I got my lunch,
Got it, dude. That's awesome.
And there's other things, I know most nights, if I can, I love the opportunity to go like see a sunset somewhere, or I love music so much. So I know every day I'm going to listen to songs I love.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost not concerned with sadness. I'm like, I know it's going to come, but I'm not going to let it drown me.
Hey, that's a good mentality to have. I think it's huge.
I want to go back to, I want to talk a little bit about not the details of your divorce, but I just want to know when that first happened. I'm sure it was something that had been, many things had led up to that point, but I'm sure it was ultimately a period of devastation for you.
For sure.
How did you react in that initial period of devastation? What were those feelings like for you?
Yeah. I mean, definitely distraught.
Yeah.
Not realizing, not expecting, not wanting, these types of feelings of just, how this is not the future that was planned.
Yeah.
You all have a vision of what your future might look like, and nobody wants to get divorced. Nobody gets married to get divorced. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so, you're going through these feelings, and you can get caught up in the bitterness or the feelings of despair, and how is life going to be? And that can traumatize, and it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it leaves deep wounds that need to be addressed. And so for me, I turn directly to God for help. Therapy. I'm a pro therapy, finding the right people. If I were to recommend people with internal family systems training, as well as attachment style training, I would prefer, if I'm telling my friends to find a therapist, to have somebody who has those types of expertise. Can really help you understand yourself better. And look, the only changing that you can do is with yourself.
Yeah.
And so I took, that next long while of deep diving on myself.
Yeah.
You can't change anyone else. And so reading books like How to Do the Work, Attached, Secure Love, How to Become the Love You Seek. Like, these are books that I would recommend for anybody. If you're going through hard things, and especially relationship wise, you're trying to understand yourself better. For men, there's ones like The Masculine in Relationship, or The Way of the Superior Man, that can help you understand divine masculine versus divine feminine.
Yeah.
These are concepts I didn't even have a clue about.
Right.
Like, I knew nothing about attachment styles.
Yeah.
I didn't know what anxious or avoidant or secure. I knew nothing. I didn't even know that there was even a thing called divine masculine and divine feminine. So as I was discovering these new things, it gave me hope and light. Like, oh my gosh, look at all of these things that are resources now. And it helped me to understand myself better and others. Because if the deeper I've come to know myself, and it's a lifelong journey, the more I feel like I'm able to see and understand others. And that gives me that compassion and empathy. Because if we truly get to know someone, and we all have flaws, you're going to see theirs probably easier than you're going to see your own. But if you do have that compassion and empathy, it'll help, resolve things in a relationship a lot easier. And knowing maybe their upbringing and their childhood and maybe some of the hard things that those people went through, because no doubt you went through hard things. Yeah. And I think there's a difference between big T trauma and little T trauma. Yeah. The abuses would probably fit into big T trauma. But even just as a child not feeling loved at one point, not because someone was totally abusive to you, but that they were maybe dealing with the other children when you really needed love and you didn't get it. That could have created some kind of a wound. Yeah. And going back and discovering that about yourself and having an understanding of where that came from, healing that part of you, even speaking to your little child self from within you. I know it sounds woo-woo, but like
little baby Bubba.
Yes, a little Bubba in there. And being able to have this conversation of like, hey, I'm an adult now, and you're great. You have a place within me, but I don't need you to protect me anymore. Yeah. And to me, whenever we receive a trigger is just a sign to us that we have something to work on. Because again, we can't control the outside influences of other people. We can only control our own responses and reactions. Yeah. And so even if somebody's doing something horrific, what are we doing about it? And are we reacting and responding? Is it like a fight or flight type mode? Are we able to see? We're all going to get triggered at some point, even if we've done healing for years. But if we can be self-aware enough to say, oh, I'm being triggered right now. I can feel this something's inside me. Yeah. I need to work on this. So where did it come from? Doing the deep dive when you're journaling. Yeah. Okay, I got triggered when so-and-so said this thing. How can I, why? Why did I get triggered? Where did that come from? And how can I help to solve that problem from the next time? Not avoid it, but how can I go head on and help heal that part of me that created that feeling? Yeah. And, we talked a little bit before coming on here about dating. And, two single guys, eligible bachelors.
Right.
And
hold on, I'm going to turn off my DMs. Okay, we should be good.
And these concepts that I'm talking about, I think are critically important in the dating world. And I am looking for these types of things. If people, you take somebody out and they're just bad mouthing their ex-spouse or whatever, their family or their upbringing, it's just negative, blame. Red flag. Yeah. Like, where's the accountability? Like, look, every story has two sides. And it's something that, I've needed to come and take my own accountability and be like, man, I took things defensively way too much. Yeah. I took it personally. And instead of being in a place where, whatever comment or thing happened and being like, interesting. Tell me more. Yeah. Tell me more about how you feel, even if it hurt my soul. Right. A dagger piercing into my heart. Yeah. And really taking that as like, okay, let me learn from that. Where is this coming from? How can I feel? And instead I'd be like, well, what the heck? But look at all these other things I've done. And that defensiveness and taking things personally was a weakness. Yeah. And it's still something that I'm trying to perfect and work on and heal. But you can tell when you're doing your own work, if somebody is not doing theirs, to me, that is a non-negotiable. Right. Like, I will not end up with somebody who has not begun to do the work. And again, for me, it is a lifelong progress. It's a lifelong goal. But I think we should talk about some tips in dating, dude. What do you guys think? Some tips?
Okay. Yeah. Let's, well, let me ask you this first.
I'm going to pull up some I prepared.
I wanted to go a little deeper into this, and I'm happy to go here. In the midst of that heartbreak, what for you was the most painful part of it? Because when you break up, whether it's a divorce or you've been dating for 2 months, it feels like there's like 3 separate deaths, right? There's the death of the past, all the memories, all the things you guys went through, that feels like it's gone or dead. There's the present, which is now eviscerated. And then there's the future, the hopes you have together, and that's gone. And so sometimes people wonder why they can't move past a divorce or a breakup and why it's so painful. But it's like, no wonder you're grieving 3 separate things. And on top of that, there's the pain of just the person being gone, maybe there's a lot of rejection. Maybe there's a lot of shame you carry. It's compounded when you have kids. What for you was just the most painful part that maybe was unexpected?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, and I haven't been through a ton of breakups. I've
one's enough.
I'm not too long into the dating process, right? Since the divorce was final. I think one of the most devastating things was my children.
Yeah.
And just knowing for them to fully comprehend why,
especially the young ones,
won't come for maybe decades.
Yeah. How do you initiate those conversations with them?
It has to be age appropriate.
Yeah.
And that was a very sensitive thing. There was no blaming. There was no one person blamed the other person. It was very much like,
did you do like a family, like let's all chat, or did you do one-on-ones?
Family council. And one-on-ones.
Okay.
So the family council together, so painful. I mean, I just bawled.
I bet.
Right? You never want to say that to a child, right?
Yeah.
Like they only see mom and dad as perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but they see mom and dad as together forever. Like that is their concept.
Yeah.
And so having to have the conversation about that not being the case was incredibly difficult and confusing. And the hardest part for me is seeing their confusion and not knowing and not being able to know all the details, and nor would they understand or comprehend. And then, trying to also teach them the principles that like, look, there is a different type of love, and there's friendship love, and there's marriage love, and that this will be more of a friendship love than it will be a marriage love.
Yeah.
But do they really understand that yet? No, not at those ages.
Right.
And so that definitely has been the hardest part. The second thing for me, besides, I mean, the children, of course, and trying to make sure they feel loved and knowing that it's not their fault.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing that we wanted to ensure, like they are fully loved and they had nothing to do with this. This is just an adult thing. And then proving it to them,
right?
So that they didn't just hear the words, but they see that love for them is forever.
Yeah.
No matter what choices they make, they will always be loved. That's been a big deal. And then I think for me, it's also what once was, and then what could have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the difficult. And this is with anybody that I've taken on dates or whatever. It's hard for all of us who have been married before, or it doesn't, I don't even know if it matters if you're married or not. You've been through relationships, right? Whether you've been married or not. And looking into the future and thinking that you had everything planned out and knowing that is all changed is a very difficult trauma to go through. And I don't think I had truly gone through the grief cycles. And going through each cycle not on purpose. Yeah. It just was happening. And getting to the place where there was more acceptance of what was happening. Man, that was the most painful. Yeah. That grief process. Right. That was just so hard to feel all of those feelings. And here's the thing. Everybody has a phone. I've got tens of thousands of pictures of the last 18 years, right, of marriage. And of course, we have happy times. Yeah. We built an incredible life together. And I will never regret the children that we brought into this world. They are incredible and beautiful and wonderful. All of these things I would never regret. This is a life experience that I needed to go through. And I'm grateful for it. And I now look back, and even the divorce process, even though it was a hell that I would never wish on anyone, it has allowed me a new understanding of myself that I can say I'm grateful for. Yeah. Do I wish that I had to go through that? No. Right. But I can see that, there's been God's hand in so many pieces allowing me to grow from this experience and knowing and coming to know myself more and having more compassion and empathy for others. Yeah. I'm able to talk to other divorced people in a way that I would have never been able to talk about, and be able to share an experience that I've felt with others. It's almost like God gave me this little gift, even though I didn't want it, and nobody wants it. But it was a learning experience and something that I can now look back and say, okay, there is some gratitude for what I feel like I've learned and growth.
Yeah.
And I know that there's still a lot of growth ahead, and there's still a lot of healing ahead. And, you know, when you see that photo of what things were, you can look at it with fondness and not bitterness.
Yeah.
And you can see that and that's a goal that everybody needs to get to. And then also when interacting with that other person is being able to find that peace, knowing that, you know, with the information we had, with the understanding and, you know, principles that we had, we tried the best we could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you get to that point, then there can be a deeper peace. And those are just some of the processes that I've had to go through to kind of go through the healing process. And again, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And there will still come times where it's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Or when we just celebrated our family-versary.
Okay.
Which was our anniversary that we converted for the kids to know that this is, hey, you know what? We created this family.
Yeah.
On this day.
That's really cool.
And I know it's a unique thought behind it, but it's like, look, the anniversary was coming up, and it's like, well, this is a different version, but it allows us to celebrate what was created.
Yeah. Neither
one of us regret, you know, that element of it, creating of this family and all of these beautiful children. And so we can celebrate that. And that's a lot easier to do than going through that day and just feeling crappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we can celebrate with the children and have some of those deeper discussions.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Thanks for sharing, man. You know, for me, I think what makes a divorce so much harder than like a normal breakup is when you have kids is that you still have to see that person for the rest of your life.
Forever.
You know, because for me, when I go through a breakup, I'm like, I need a full detox. I need to not see this person. I need no contact, because every time I see him, I feel like I go backwards. So how do you balance, like, I have to see this person, I have to communicate with them, I have to co-parent
every day,
and I have to maybe force what used to be romantic love into friendship love, like you said. How do you do that? Maybe you're still.
If I had all the answers, I'd have.
Yeah. Do you have half the answers?
No, I can only speak from my own experience, right? And the co-parenting has been really good, right? And I know not everyone's experience is the same.
Sure.
I think again, I'm gonna like pound this pulpit. Healing is necessary. If there is still bitterness and anger towards the other person, you have work to do.
Right.
Does not matter what the other person is doing. It does not matter what they say. It does not. It is you who are only in charge of yourself.
Yeah.
And that is painful because if you look closely, you're going to see flaws.
Yeah.
And if you take time enough to not numb out in life and scroll, TV, whatever, and you sit with it yourself, you will find some painful things. And until you do those painful parts, this is why it's called the work. It is literal work.
Right.
And when you do the work, you will come and see things that you did not want to see before. And a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid of what they will find when they dig deep enough. And the sad part is people live for decades and decades with this pain, with these gaping wounds that they're not willing to heal because of the pain they have to feel to heal it.
Yeah. What did you find when you looked inward?
No. I found out that I needed to earn love ever from a childhood.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. And through therapy and coaching and healing retreats, I realized there was a little download from God that was like, hey, you don't need to earn love anymore. Like you are loved.
It's just here.
You are, you just being you are loved. And I just thought you had to earn it because that's the way I did as a kid, you know? And so you do as a kid, then you get into a relationship, you do in a relationship. Well, that's not right. Like, yes, you need to be a good person. You need to be kind. You need to treat others right.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be trying to do something to then feel a certain way.
Yeah.
That's a dependency.
Yeah.
You need to just feel your own sense of love and godly love.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole idea of becoming whole and two whole people coming together, that's the ideal scenario. Look, I don't think that fully exists. I think all of us are trying to become whole, and that's the better.
Yeah.
We're trying to become whole, and the more we're trying, and as we come together, we both try to continue to be whole.
Mm-hmm.
That is how we have to be working, no matter whether we're single or married.
Right.
And I think sometimes when we stop or don't even know that we should be doing this work is where we fall. And I would highly recommend, if married people are watching, there's a book, Secure Love, that I mentioned by Julie Menino. I highly recommend.
Yeah.
And it's a way to look at your attachment styles, which they come from our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can understand each other's childhood and how it shaped, it totally changes your adult romantic relationships. But if you can understand it, it doesn't mean you sit in it and you never change, but it gives you more compassion and empathy for the other person's upbringing and why they maybe do the things that they do.
Right.
And as both spouses or people in a relationship are working on themselves, then there will be progress. I think, what do they say? There's a 7-year itch, the 14-year. It's like every 7 years we become a new version of ourselves. And that's where you see a lot of divorces, 7 years, 14, 15 years. Like, this is kind of this cycle. Well, if we're working together, we're working on ourselves, but as a couple, knowing that you're both working on yourselves, then the hope is that when you go through those evolutions and you're becoming this new person in those cycles, that you're doing it together and not apart. Now, that doesn't mean you're dependent upon the other person to do that. You have to do it independently in a sense. But you're more understanding and compassionate with each other through the process. Oh man, there's so much to talk about when healing is involved. Yeah. I've found breathwork to be an incredible way to break open my heart. I had never done it before a couple of years ago.
Okay, help me. This is a topic that I've tried to not be overly cynical about, but I'm just like, okay, so you're breathing.
Yeah.
You know?
So
help me catch the vision.
Okay, so I'm no expert by any means, but I have had some magical experiences for me. It's I can only speak for my own.
Yeah. Is it that different from meditation?
Very different.
Okay.
Very different than meditation. So meditation to me is a place where you sit calm, you maybe have some soft music playing and you try to clear your mind, and in that meditation, you're clearing your mind to allow God to speak to you.
Yeah.
And you're speaking to God in that process. And meditation allows that, hopefully, your brain's going 100 miles an hour. It's a cleanse, a mental cleanse. Breath work, although for me, I'm communicating with God throughout that process. When you're breathing, and I'm talking breath work, not just like sitting and breathing, because you're doing that in meditation.
Yeah.
I'm talking about deep and fast breathing.
Okay.
And again, I'm no expert, so people are going to judge me for this. I'm not an expert, but like you breathe completely all the way in.
Like you're hyperventilating.
You're going to hyperventilate and breathe in again at the top.
Yeah.
And then you can breathe out, and then you're doing it again.
Yeah.
And it's like this weird thing that you're not used to. You have to be laying down because and your blood flow changes. Like your hands can even become less functioning.
Yeah.
And you're trying to bring as much oxygen into your body. You're over oxygenating your brain and your body. And the spiritual side of it is beautiful because, in my opinion, you have, Jehovah or Jesus in, I believe it's Hebrew, I think. Yahweh is, some people have heard of Yahweh. Well, you spell Yahweh without any vowels. And essentially when you say it, it's like breathing in, Yahweh. And so it's almost like you're breathing in this life of Jesus. And when you're born, what's the first thing you say? You're breathing in Jesus' name. The last breath you take, you're breathing in and out Jesus' name. I think when you're having this Yahweh experience and breath work, breathing in and out, it's a godly form of healing.
Yeah.
And breath is this essence of healing.
Yeah.
And I had never known about these things. So I went through one of my very first experience of buddy of mine, Mike Allen. I love him. Shout out. He is phenomenal at doing more of a Christ-centered, breath work. And I'm laying down, and
it's interesting real quick, just because most of what I've heard of people doing breath work are people that are almost outside of religious beliefs, which is fine. But I love that you've incorporated what you believe and your truth into the healing process.
Yeah. And again, whether you believe in a higher power or a God or Jesus or breath work you can still have an impact on you. And if you're in my opinion, when I'm laying there and I'm breathing in, I am communicating.
Yeah.
I'm expressing my thoughts, my innermost, darkest, deepest, thoughts and fears with my higher power, with God. And you get to the point where you have so much oxygen in your body and your whole mind starts buzzing. My body starts buzzing, physically vibrating.
Yeah.
In a way that I've never felt. And to the point where even my jaw is like clenched shut.
Yeah.
And it can be a little scary for some people, but it's if you're doing it with the right people and you're being guided in this process, it can be the most beautiful thing. But what happened was I had been holding so many emotions deep inside. And as a man, look, something happens, pick yourself back up, stop crying, go get the job done.
Yeah.
That's what we're trained to do.
I like to start crying. That's what I prefer to do.
Well, that's what we should be doing. Because what I've learned, look, I spent 40 years of my life shoving emotions down. I'm accountable for that.
Yeah.
I should not have been doing that. But I would shove the emotions down, shove the deep feelings down, and move on with my life. But what I didn't realize is I just built up, whether it was resentment or trauma or pain, that was inevitably going to spew out at some point.
Yeah.
It's totally unhealthy. Look, even masculine men, and to me, masculine does not mean muscles, mustaches, and machine guns. Right. It means a divine masculine. To me, Jesus is the ultimate example of divine masculine.
Yeah.
He's able to go into the temple and throw the tables because he was so upset and frustrated with what they were doing inside his father's house. And yet he can also sit and kneel down with the woman caught in adultery and write in the dirt and forgive her and get everybody in total peace and meekness. And that ability to control emotions, but not hide emotions. So he was able to utilize that strength. And to me, a divinely masculine man creates a safe bowl, let's say. I put my hands here before even the word came out. A bowl that is structured and it is a form. Now, I wish I knew this 5 years ago. I did not. And the divine feminine is like water. And look, femininity can be peaceful and as calm as a pond in the early morning. It can have drizzle and some rain, or it can be a thundering lightning storm in the ocean, crashing and whatever's happening. And as a masculine man, we need to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually tough enough. And I'm going to say tough in a unique way, but to be a bowl to give space for that feminine.
To harness it.
Harness, I don't like that word because it sounds like you're usurping power. It's just allowing space. You're holding it, right? And if you're holding this space for whatever the feminine needs to do, and it can be, again, peaceful and calm or raging thunderstorm, we give space for that. And me taking things personally and being defensive was taking my masculine form, breaking it to pieces and becoming water. And being like, well, what the heck? But I did this or I did that, or how come you didn't see this or notice me for this? Or that is inherently feminine.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that you incorporate, that you take abuse, but being able to have a form that you allow feminine to be. I believe we as masculine men need to lead that first. And women can can fall into, and I love the term fall into their feminine selves.
Yeah.
Because look, so many women out there are forced to be in their masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's divorce and they have to go provide for themselves, or whether they were raised in a way that you had to be strong, or maybe they did go through some abuse. And so for a protective mechanism is to be more masculine. And both men and women have masculine and feminine in us.
Sure.
But we will inherently be unhappy if we're not living in our true form.
Yeah.
So I ended up becoming more feminine while I was in the relationship. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was happening, but I had given in to this more feminine form. And that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I did not create a polarity. It's like magnets.
Yeah.
I was becoming more feminine. So guess what? She had to become more masculine.
Right.
And
the roles reversed.
The more that she was becoming masculine, the less she felt the feminine divine to just be. And look, I'm not an expert in this topic, but I'm obviously passionate about it because it's such a new concept for me, not into the world. The world has known this for eons and eons. But we need to create polarity in these relationships where men need to become more divinely masculine and need to master self-mastery, self-discipline, our own desires. And most of them have to do with sexuality.
Sure.
Because that's mostly where we men are going to express ourselves.
That's mostly what we're interested in.
And mostly where there's interest.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, women also know that. And so sometimes more insecure women will leverage that form to entice the man.
Yeah.
And if we can be more sexually disciplined and have more self-mastery in our own selves, then we, I believe, can be more masculine. Not that we don't want it, because by all means, we were built to be with a man and a woman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's how God created us. And yes, I love intimacy more than most, let's say, or as much as others.
Congrats. Yeah.
And that is very attractive.
Yeah.
But the most attractive female to me is someone who has found that they can love themselves enough to be in their feminine.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean you can't go to work. A masculine man can go to work, and a woman can go to work and be in her masculine at work, getting stuff done, getting the tasks done, and leading and charging. But the skill is to be able to come home and find a way to find that feminine again.
Yeah.
And it's so hard.
Right.
So hard. And it's hard for men to stay within their masculine because it's easier to just come home and say, hey, honey, what do you want to do tonight?
Yeah.
I'm so exhausted from work. Like, where do you want to go to dinner?
Right.
What do you want to do? No. Lead.
They don't want to choose where we're eating.
No, they don't. They want us to step up and be a man and be like, honey, I thought of these places to go. I think we should go to this place.
Yeah.
Of course, if she objects, then you modify.
Yeah.
But like, take charge. And it's sad. For too long, I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right thing and appeasing and whatever you want. And that unfortunately was more feminine in its own nature. So anyway, there's such a deep dive to study this topic of divine masculine, divine feminine. There's something online for women. It's called the Queen Collective. I'm going to give them a shout out. That's Henry's wife, Taryn Amar. And she's doing, I think, a great job of helping women find their divine feminine again. And I need to find more where people are talking about this divine masculine. Too much I see is toxic. And it's, again, look, I love to be healthy, but just having muscles is not inherently divinely masculine.
Right.
But taking care of your body
Sure.
is. Having facial hair or tattoos is not inherently masculine.
Right.
Even though women may say, oh, that person looks more masculine because they have a beard or whatever. But it's who you are. And masculine men need to have vulnerability. They need to be able to express themselves authentically. And also be in a place mentally and spiritually to create a safe space for the woman to be that water and to be flowing and free. I'm not perfect at it. This is a learning in progress moment here. So I know I'm preaching from what looks like a pulpit. It is from a learning experience. And I do love the concept, and it gives me this whole new life to learn. And I have so much more that I can progress in this concept. Okay, but that was my soapbox. Sorry.
That's great. We welcome soapboxes. Dude, you want to hear this hack I heard on TikTok about how to pick the right restaurant for your woman?
Let's hear it.
You basically say, okay, babe, I picked a restaurant tonight for us. Guess where we're going? And she'll be like, oh, the Cheesecake Factory. And you'll be like, yep.
You know what? For a first few dates, that may work.
Yeah.
When you're married, that may not work for very long. That's amazing. I think a woman wants you to make the plan.
Right.
Now, again, of course, she can plan a date. There's nothing wrong with that. And she can invite you to an activity. Of course she can do that. But for the most part, like, to take charge and be a leader in that front, in order to allow that full creativity and that full feminine process to come and be and express itself. And I'm sure I'll get hate for saying these things. There's probably some people who are like, whatever, I'm a masculine woman and I love it. And that's great.
Yeah.
You know, if that's you, that's you.
Right.
But to my understanding, there is a heavenly father and a heavenly mother, and we were created in very unique ways.
Yeah.
And those unique ways are more divinely masculine and more divinely feminine. And we will be happier with ourselves deep inside our subconscious being when we are acting in those roles.
Yeah.
And when we do, and we have a polarity of those roles, it will be more magnetic.
Yeah. And
if women, if you're struggling to get more masculine men into your life, it may be because you're focused on being more masculine too often. And that may repel, because masculine are going to butt heads.
Yeah.
And if they're too feminine, you may not be attracted to them.
Right.
And so it's a whole thing. We could talk about it a lot. But we have to talk on some of these topics before we end.
Yeah, no, let's do it.
Because when I'm talking about dating, because this is such a funny thing. Look, I'm newer into this. So again, I'm no expert.
Yeah, you're new in the
dating.
market. Yeah.
You've got many more years of dating experience. So maybe you tell me if these are things we can talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go, single people. Let's talk about dating. Here's one. I want you to be honest with your relationship status.
Yeah.
And to me, one way of being honest is, if you're married, please wear a wedding ring.
Sure. Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
But you say that,
and
yet go to church in a family ward or a family, institution. There will be many people married not wearing a wedding ring.
Yeah.
Now, as a single person, that is the absolute first thing I'm looking for.
Right.
I am eyeing for a wedding ring.
Right.
Because it is an outward expression of your inward commitment.
Right.
And I'm sure I'll get some hate. People are like, oh, it's uncomfortable. Then get a different ring.
Yeah.
If you don't like your diamond because it catches on things, then get a silicone.
To me,
do something.
To me, it's not a big deal, because I'm like, I think you should, but to me, if somebody hits on you, just be like, oh, I'm married. Problem solved.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But why not? Why not show your spouse that commitment?
Yeah.
Because it's, and you may say like, well, we're married.
Yeah.
We've been married 30 years. I haven't worn a ring for 20 of them. And look, of course, do what works for you.
Yeah.
And the secure man may say, I don't care if you wear a ring.
Yeah.
Because I know you're mine and I'm yours. So from a secure standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
From a dating standpoint, if I'm out there and I'm in a public place and somebody's not wearing a ring, and I have to get up the gumption to go and talk to you because you're a beautiful person.
Hey, I've taken some L's from some married women. It's just how it goes.
All right.
I don't care that much, because I'm like, half the women are single, but they have boyfriends too. So either way, there's a big risk involved. Either way, I have to summon some gumption. So it's almost easier if they're married, because I'm like, okay, that's a for sure.
Yep.
See you later.
Yep. Compliments to you.
Yeah.
I approached you for that.
And women don't tend to lie about that. Women will lie all the time and say, oh, I have a boyfriend. And I just have to assume, hopefully they're telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, if they're saying it, it's not worth pursuing anyway.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I see that perspective.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Here's another one. So honor your past, but don't live in it.
Yeah.
So for me, like, be honest about, these are some notes, be honest about what you've been through, but you don't have to lead with like the bitterness and the brokenness.
Sure.
Hopefully you've done this work that we've talked about to heal enough, but be honest about it because that's that vulnerability we're talking about. So
this is really nuanced because a lot of these, it's like, okay, there's one thing that's true for once you start dating, once you are exclusive and you're in a relationship, and then there's a whole nother thing for when it's a first, second, third date. But there's that gray area where you've been on maybe 7 or 8 dates and you're starting to like each other, but you're not exclusive. And you're like, when is the correct time to talk about all this heavy stuff from my past or to be fully truthful about what I've been through, because I don't think it's necessarily appropriate on a first or second date,
All right, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Because, dude, I am like first, second, third, and I'm like, hey, look, this is me. And maybe it's because I'm like, I am too old to like mess around. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
Like, I have 8 children. I'm running businesses. Like, I just don't have time. If there isn't a mix, it isn't worth it. Right. I was on a lunch date the other day, and a beautiful woman that is just, we're having a blast communicating. But within the first interaction, first date, it was very clear that our priorities in life are very different. And, but it ended up being so nice because we cleared that up very quickly. And, we're on different paths in life, and we were able to become close. Like, we're now friends. And I'm going to set her up with people that are following kind of more of the lifestyle that she has chosen. And she's thinking about women for me that, the life. But it was the first date that we were able to get into some of these deeper, vulnerable topics. And yes, I don't, from a trust standpoint, maybe you don't share everything at that moment. But I do love being vulnerable.
No, I love being really vulnerable on first or second dates. It's just, for me, I don't like to establish on those beginning dates, like what are deal breakers or what are like
non-negotiables,
or what are things that like I want my future to look like. Cause to me, that's just feels really intense. And I want a date to be really light. And I want us to be able to just see if we like each other organically and not worry about like, do we want the same number of kids? Do we want, and you're in a completely different spot than me, because
I've got 8 of them.
You have a baker's dozen and you don't want to waste your time. But the reality is nobody on dates, whether you're 21 or 41, nobody wants to waste time, but you also don't want to reveal all your cards immediately.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm probably doing way too much. I'm like, look, this is me. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. Like,
my opinion is they'll see that anyway. And so you don't need to advertise like, hey, like this is what you're signing up for. This is how it is. Cause I'm kind of like, you go out, you talk to me long enough or you see me a second time, you'll see this.
This is who I am. Right. Oh, dude, I love it. This is great perspective. Different in perspective. I love it. Okay. Here's one. Don't date to numb the pain. But I think the idea of date when you're whole is not a true statement.
I mean, when are you ever whole?
You're never all the way whole, right? But I think the numbing is a part that even I've experienced where it was like, hey, divorce was final. I'm like, I'm ready. And yet, am I truly ready to be in an exclusive relationship? Like, I'm working on that, But I think if it's just if you're in this bitterness phase and you're just going out to numb, I think there's ways of going out and having fun and getting yourself out there. Without that piece.
My take is when you're in that weird spot where you're like, I don't know if I'm ready yet, but I want to be ready and I want to get out there, but I'm still really hurt. I say, just be open to connection, right? And maybe it turns into something more, maybe it doesn't, but don't fixate on like, when am I like, I need a girlfriend or I need to be in a relationship again. Yeah. Just focus on, let me meet people that I like and that I want to continue to see, and don't put any pressure on the pacing of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Just make it more organic, natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you don't need to be, like, in my opinion, you can be in the throes of heartbreak and still go on dates with people and have it not be a big deal.
Yeah.
And you can even see, okay, are these the people I'm going out with? Maybe I'm not ready to be in a relationship, but are these the kind of people that I want to be going out with?
Yeah.
Especially like for you, like you've been out of the dating market for 18 years, you know?
Almost 20.
You don't know anything.
Very true.
You don't know what, like, all you have to really gauge things on is what you had in the past.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to kind of rediscover what you like and what you want.
Absolutely.
And so you have to do that at your own pace.
And that's been something I've been trying to be very transparent, right? So I'll take someone out and I'm new to this.
Yeah.
And I am discovering myself, and it's great to get to know others and what's going on. And I've found, like, the more transparent I have been able to be about where I'm at, how I'm feeling, that has tended to create the best relationships.
Right.
And at least especially when things aren't a right fit, but I've been transparent along the way. That's been easier than maybe, playing some game or pretending to be something you're not.
Right.
So I think being honest and upfront and as much as you can be is key.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Prioritize purpose over pleasure. Now look, physical attraction matters, and I like kissing just like anybody does.
Sure.
But I think the idea behind your purpose, and that's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but I think, of course, I want to be remarried someday.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I know some people are like, whoa, no way. I don't want to be remarried for sure.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah. You want companionship.
I'm in no rush.
Right.
But there's purpose behind this dating process and this courtship. And hopefully I'm learning a lot about myself and rediscovering these things that I haven't tried for a long time. But maybe the pleasure side is try to have some self-control.
Sure. Yeah. My thought there is I want to make sure when I'm dating, no matter, because there's always an aspect that you're like, I don't want to just be casually dating, but I also can't be just seriously dating all the time. There's going to be some casual mixed in there.
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, I just want to make sure I'm not emotionally reckless.
Interesting.
And that's with myself and with other people, and it's like, if you're going out with somebody that also just kind of wants to have a good time, go nuts.
Yeah.
Fun. To me, that's fine, because you're on the same page and you're not being emotionally reckless.
I love that.
If that frivolity is going to affect you negatively, then you're being reckless.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, I just got divorced, like I don't know up from down, I need to have some fun, I need to let loose, as long as the person you're going out with is on the same page, like, do what you got to do, but don't be emotionally reckless.
Yeah. I love that. Emotionally reckless. That's a good term.
Yeah.
I'm keeping that one.
Keep it.
All right. Here's one thing. I'm on a date, a lot of divorced women, right? I'm watching how they're talking about their ex.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's a reason why things happen, and there's two sides to every story. No question.
Yeah.
But knowing how they're speaking about them will tell a lot.
Oh yeah.
About that person.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just one thing.
Yeah. I mean, it shows me how much compassion they have, because you can be treated really poorly and still have compassion for somebody and still realize, well, they're coming from a place of pain themselves.
Totally.
Right. And what I've noticed so much from dating people that have been through divorces and talking to men and women is you really hear almost the same stories across the board. It's a really reductive version of what happened, but you hear like men saying, she was crazy. Turns out she was crazy. And you hear women say, he was a jerk. He was addicted to porn. He was abusive. And you hear guys just say, she was crazy. She was insecure. She had issues. And I'm like, there's probably some truth to both sides, but we all know that relationships are way more nuanced than that. So yeah, when I hear somebody just, it's all blame.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
a red flag.
Yeah. It's tough to hear.
I think accountability is one thing that I look for, and it's so helpful, authentic accountability, to be able to know that, hey, everybody has a part.
Yeah.
In the relationship.
Yeah.
And yes, there can be some more traumatic things that happened.
Yeah.
And I totally can
And
understand
even if
that.
you end up with a freaking sociopath,
yeah,
like you have to take some onus yourself and say, well, why did I end up with a sociopath? What's my problem?
There's some truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I know we're running out of time. Okay. A couple last things. Let's see. Of course, we've heard it before. Be the type of person you're trying to attract.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're looking for somebody who's fit, you should probably be fit yourself.
Yeah.
If you're looking for somebody who has the financial means, you might want to try and become one yourself.
Yeah.
If you're looking for someone with spiritual, insights and depth, you might want to become that yourself.
Yeah.
I that's a common one we all hear.
Yeah.
I think that the difference between loneliness and being alone. What do you think about that?
I think they're correlated, but there's not necessarily causation, like I think I can be alone without being lonely, but I can also be in a relationship and be lonely. And that's maybe even a more lonely place to be.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, loneliness it's a really, really powerful emotion that is really hard. And a lot of times it makes us do things that we ordinarily wouldn't do in relationships. It makes us get into relationships we shouldn't be in because we fear being alone. We fear being lonely.
Yeah.
And so we're like, I'll settle for this mediocre relationship because I don't like who I am when it's just me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wrote down was like, sometimes God has to isolate us to deepen our identity in him. So don't fear the alone seasons.
Yeah.
It can be sacred.
Yeah.
It's a new concept for me.
Yeah. Well, I've been deeply isolated.
Dude, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good.
But it's sacred time.
No, listen, I agree.
Sacred.
And I would say I love the wording, it's sacred time, because I've been able to do things in my life that there's just, at my age, and there's no way I would have been able to do all these things had I gotten married at 21 or 27, and yeah, it brings a lot of like pain to my heart that I've been alone for so long, but there's a lot of beauty in the things I've been able to do. And I think because of all the like compounded aloneness that I've felt, I think it will make me a much better partner.
Well, you've got years of experience and knowledge, wisdom.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. I'm so glad we got together.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is helpful for you guys out there. I thought this is fun for me.
Yeah, no, listen, I think so many people go through really, really painful breakups and they feel so alone. They feel like no one knows the pain I'm going through. And so to hear people's really specific stories and to hear how hard it is, and especially like you come across on camera, but I'm sure in real life and how I've experienced you as such a deeply positive person. But like you said, we all carry a lot of stuff, a lot of pain. And it's helpful to know that. Yeah. And it's helpful to know, okay, even though this person is really joyful and really seizes moments and really grabs a hold of life, they still carry a lot of pain, and that's okay. And to me, it helps me feel less lonely to know that other people are going through stuff.
Amen.
I like to end the podcast and just sort of flip the mics around and see if you have any questions for me.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Me being newly into this world.
Yeah.
And learning about dating. What are, let's say, the top 3 concepts, principles that I need to really take heart in while I'm going through this process?
I think for me, a few years ago came up with what I call the 5 pillars of dating. And I think people can get overwhelmed with like all the things you want and need in a partner and when you're dating, because you're like, well, I want them to be kind and I want them to be sweet and I want them to be loving and I want them to be like active in my church and I want them to have these interests, and it can be really overwhelming. And so I'm like, let me make this a little simpler and come up with 5 things that I need. And most of these things fall into these categories. Mm-hmm. So I go personality, physical attraction / intimacy, spirituality, intellect, and emotional wellness. And to me, anything you want in a partner falls under these 5 categories. And the reason personality is number 1 is because most things come back to what's their personality like. And so my main focus in dating is I'm personality hunting. I want somebody that I'm obsessed with, somebody that I just love being around. I love hearing them talk. I love the way they think. I love the way they walk. I love the way they talk with their hands. I just love them, right? And then from there, I want to see how spiritual they are. I want to see how kind they are. I want to see their family dynamic. I want to see their passions, right? But without that beautiful personality, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And so my advice to people that are kind of newly into the dating market is fixate on personality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So attraction you put in there.
Yeah. I put it really high.
So you've got this personality and attraction, and those are like the first things to look for.
Yeah.
Because it does help to have some form of attraction.
Right. And that's why I don't have attraction number 1, you notice.
Yeah.
Because I think men especially can get hypnotized by beauty and by attraction.
And miss red flags.
Sure. But you want it high enough, and for everyone that's different. Maybe for you, you're like, well, for me, I need this level of attraction to really feel a connection, whatever. But just figure out what that is for you.
Yeah. But personality for sure.
Yeah, it just has to be number 1.
Click.
Yeah.
Look, these kids that I've got, they won't be with me forever. Right? They're going to grow and be gone. And guess what? It's me and that person.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree that the personality has to be the one that you want to be with forever.
Yeah.
So I love that, man.
Yeah. Another thing I look for is, you talk so much about someone that does the work, right? To me, and this is part of that, it's somebody that can admit they're wrong. And it sounds so simple, but a lot of people really struggle with it. But I just look at my own life and I'm like, dude, I'm wrong all the time. I'm not convinced I'm ever right. Awesome. And so, and maybe I'm sure I could do better at it, but I want to also live in a way that I can be like, oh, that was me. I messed up, or I read the situation wrong, or I came in too hot. I overreacted. I want to be able to do that at all times. And I need my person.
That's a huge skill, by the way.
Yeah.
Most cannot do that.
Right.
So
well,
good
listen,
on you, dude.
I have to realize, like, I have to kind of go and, unfortunately, I have to sort of commit homicide to my ego and realize, like, whether I'm right or wrong, who cares?
Yeah.
That's not what's important. What's important is that we have peace and we have understanding and we have respect and love for each other. And so many people, I think the main reason they're unhappy is their obsession with being right. And I hear so many, I do a lot of coaching with relationships and dating, and I hear so many people just obsessing over how their partner is wrong.
Oof.
And I'm like, so what? Like, it's not about being right. It's about being happy.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
Depth of knowledge, my friend. I love it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So fun.
I appreciate you, man. Well, yeah.
If people can find me if they want.
Yeah. I'll put all your
Bubba Page
info in the show notes. Bubba Page. Yeah. Go find his page.
That's right.
Okay, man. Appreciate you.